Always hung out with the girls. Always hung out with the girls. Always hung out with the girls. The girls, they accepted me.
Wait, no. Wait. Hi, and welcome to the Fluid Voice. I am Ozma In The Dark, utilizing she/they pronouns for the purposes of inclusivity. Actually, I'm going wholesome today. I am joined this week by Context Wrench. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I am using most pronouns other than it for, I don't know, diversity and stuff. And I'm just here to, I don't know, try and help where I can.
And we are here this week with Isiah. How are you doing?
I'm good. I use he/him pronouns. I'm here. I'm here to share my story with everyone, and yeah. So I'm good. So
Okay. And Christy wasn't feeling up to it this week, which, like, self-care is important, and you know, words. I mean, I wasn't here last week, so although I do a lot of the technical stuff, so that was a bit more of an issue for the continuation for the show that week. And yeah, so I guess because you asked to continue on, Isiah, so I figured I'd just pick a similar topic name for autism and expectations, which is, I know it's similar to last week, but you know, a continuation is sometimes the right thing to do. And also, hi everyone.
we were having a lot of technical issues that kind of like cut into our time. So, and you know, I was having to like type in my responses via the Discord server, like you know, just having technical issues, just being unfamiliar with the software. So it was a little bit wonky, but now that I'm directly talking to everyone and we're directly talking to each other, I think it'll be a more smoother operation tonight.
Well, yeah, and I was able to get possible help with Zoom this week. I probably won't have a working. I'll eventually have my own working Zoom account, but that'll probably be after I have a working bank account, which I haven't quite dealt with having a bank account again yet, because debt collectors are horrible people.
And life is complicated.
Yes, but also debt collectors are horrible people. I mean, like, the companies.
Yes.
And potentially, to some degree, the individuals.
Oh, possibly.
But yeah, I guess, out of curiosity, was there somewhere specific that you wanted to continue on from our from the previous conversation going on last week? I mean, if not, I can think of something. I just figured I'd let you go with that if there's something you had on your mind.
They mean you, Isiah. So
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I think like what do you want to like? Do you want to talk about like expectations of people with autism, like just in general, or just like on a romantic front, particularly from an autistic male's perspective? Because because as we talked about intermittently in the last time we brought this up, it was um a lot of traits about socializing with women are kind of not just really designed with men, with people on the spectrum anyway. That it's mostly designed for neurotypicals, and a lot of it has toxic masculinity aspects in it. So we can talk about that, or we can talk about just expectations of neurotypicals when you think of people with autism just in general. So we can.
Well, I'm sure we could bring up both, but or I mean, we can go a few different ways, because like I think I think that what's said a lot is kind of, in general, I think there are societal expectations there and innuendos that are tied with everything. And but yeah, when it comes to my whole background is weird to say, or atypical to say the least. So I don't think I was raised with. I mean, there were the societal elements, I'm sure, of toxic masculinity that I was raised with. I think one of the biggest ones being the sort of, I don't know, there are aspects of the hero's journey type mentality of, if you work hard enough and do enough, you'll be rewarded for all the hard work and pain that you go through in life.
Yeah.
Which that's not anything. That's just like, and that's an excuse and a fantasy and a dream that oftentimes gets told. I get the impression very well, at least the I watched the videos that were recommended on Social Justice Alchemy earlier. The videos about the creator of the I can't even think of the name of the term, the hero's journey guy. And he was a whole
Joseph Campbell
mess of things. Yeah. He was a whole mess of bad, but there was a lot of elements of the hero is supposed to be a man no matter what type thing.
Yeah.
Was definitely his attitude, but also, yeah, that sort of, you go through a journey, you suffer all this pain, and then you're supposed to expect some sort of, you're supposed to get some sort of reward or accomplishment from all the pain. That's definitely the one of the more toxic elements that gets tied to it, but tied to it for that I still have some social conditioning with. But like, when it comes to autism, I assume some of the traits of like how you're supposed to be get and these are things that are told to you as objective by a lot of people. I assume my parents did not, my parents at the very least didn't teach me like half or the majority of the toxic masculinity stuff.
Yeah. Well, my dad and my brother were kind of that way, being, black men, they had to like prove their masculinity and, that shit. And I never really lived up to it. So I got bullied for that.
Yeah. I mean, I I don't even know why I was bullied. I'm pretty sure I was bullied by someone who was, at least at some point or another in nerd stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, it was like a nerd bully was the person, or a semi nerd bully was the person who bullied me the most in high school. I mean, to be fair, the jock person who bullied me, I did swing my backpack in. Once again, I did not fit in with any club.
Yeah.
Which probably is why I probably wasn't bullied as much as some people, just in general.
So, Isaiah, do you feel like, or how do you feel like the stress and bullying that you experienced starting in your family played out with trying to establish other relationships with neurotypicals?
Well, actually, it was it kind of was in some ways the opposite. The bullying that I experienced didn't really affect me of establishing a relationship with people who were neurotypicals, mostly because those relationships were usually older people, usually older white women. So I guess there's I'm the harmless black male that they run into every now and then. So there's that trope. But it was mostly with older people that I guess I garnered more respect with. It wasn't really people my age that I was able to I guess make social connections. It was always with people who were older than me. I think some of it was because I was also just more inquisitive, and I guess that's not really a lot of young people that are very inquisitive. So there was some of that, but it never really like affected me making friends with neurotypicals, because the way it's happened is, you know, like I guess case in point, the last time this happened with people who were, I guess, somewhat my age and neurotypical was there was an incident at me working on a movie set, because I went to school for video production, and I was you know, trying to find, like, you know, gigs here and there to build my resume. And there was an event that happened when I was in Bainbridge, Georgia, where the set was taking place. I don't want to really get into specifics. Some of it was my fault. I said some things that I maybe didn't say. But when I got back and I tried to apologize, once it was all over, some of the people that I work with told me that what you should do is come and work your ass off. And that's what I came to do, but they never really gave me any work to do. So I was just sitting around doing nothing. So they weren't really telling me what I should do in order to prove myself. And all I was just doing is just being a chauffeur and just sitting around doing nothing. So they didn't really tell me what I needed to do. So maybe just making friends with people my age is just impossible, because it's just, like, the moment I walk in, based like what I look like, how I act, and all that stuff, maybe they just don't know how to approach me, and I just pretty much just chalk it up to, okay, you know, these are neurotypicals, they don't know anything, and I guess just move on. So did that answer your question?
To some degree. First of all, it's a really old trope that what older people tends to call kids with old souls tends to correlate well with kids who are determined to be neurodivergent later on.
Right.
Whether that's specifically autistic or not, but it tends to be. There's a high correlation there, which of course is not direct evidence, but it is an interesting thing to be aware of. Also, in my experience, which is probably different from yours, neurotypicals generally tend to be really bad at giving specific directions. They'll say, just show up and wait for something to happen, and you'll just kind of be like, but what am I waiting for? What am I looking for? And sometimes struggling with social cues can contribute to that.
Yeah. They didn't tell me what I needed to do. They just said, because, like, you're a production assistant, that's what I was. So I was in charge of, like, helping out with moving things around and all that stuff. And it's like, and this wasn't the first time this happened. I actually did an assignment with some of these people, and these were like the Florida State Film School. So these were like quote unquote liberal progressive people, although not all, and
That's its own story.
yeah, and like like I had worked at someone's house because we were filming out of their house, and I had gotten there from like 7. I was there from 7:30 to like 4:30 p.m. all day that day. This was like last year, and I only did like 30 minutes of work, so I was just pretty much over here just sitting around, and I'm like, okay, so am I gonna do something? What's like?
Wait, which particular thing did you have to do in the film production?
Oh, I was like helping with moving stuff around and equipment around,
Oh, okay.
and I didn't get any work from it. I'm just wondering what will.
I mean, I don't have a lot of filming experience, but like, my memory of it was, I mean, to be fair, I did like everything behind the scenes myself once when I shot at a friend's house or whatnot for a similar period of time, and everyone was talking about how much they were waiting around. So it's hard to like, I know my personal experience isn't everything, but to some degree, I don't know how much of that is aspects of filming.
That's not a problem because again, this is a very small. These were very small films with very small people, but you can't then tell me like, well, when all is said and done, that just go and work your ass off. Or someone else also told me that there's always something to do, find something to do, because that's what I did.
Oh,
I tried to find something to do, but no one gave me any work. And now you're telling me that you're trying to accuse me of being a lazy ass when I was like, that was.
oh, fudge! I hate that. No, okay.
Yeah, maybe I should-
Never mind. I'm understanding the situation better. It's one of it's one of the oh, find something to do situation. I hate those situations.
well, I can't just make up stuff. It's like
Yeah.
I can't find work to curry you. And then if I keep asking you if there's work to do, like actual work, you'll then say I'm being annoying. So, I'm not, you're not making any sense. You're just, I don't know. A lot of those groups already have like their own style, their own like thing, and I'm a new person walking in, and like when they see someone with a Star Trek shirt, like I guess it just puts them off, because I kind of look at it as, even like among progressives and liberals who have, I guess they know black people or something, like whenever a black person, particularly a black male, does not fit their like even their most mildest perceptions, they tend to get a little bit bothered by it. Like, oh, here's a black person who's somewhat polite, who's nice, and it's like all the black people I've known are kind of, hip hoppy and kind of, stuff like that. And I think that when it's me or someone else, it just, they don't know how to process that, and then they want to blame me, but in reality, but the way I see it is that that's on them, so.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you just being there makes them uncomfortable because you're different, that's never a good sign.
Yeah.
With a lot of things, that's not a good place to start. But I think that some of the stuff also depends on the age of people, except I get the impression that like there's like it seems from the outside like there's less of the clique mentality in Gen Z than there was in Gen X or whatnot.
Well, I don't keep up with like generational things like that, but I would say probably. I mean, I don't. These people were a clique, I guess. They were a film clique. I'm a millennial. I mean, most of the people there were, I want to say, like in their early 20s. I'm like in my 30s.
Okay.
There were some people who were like in their, older than me, but I mean, people form cliques in general, but and I don't, and it's not like I can't form a clique, be in a group. It's just I only join groups that I like, that I think are challenge like that I can actually share my interests with. Social Justice Alchemy is one. Talking to Steve Shives and when he has his Patreon hangout, because we talk about Star Trek a lot. So it's like,
Yeah.
there's that. It's not like
Yeah. Oh, I was just saying, I've always been bad with cliques. Personally, I never really. I have very broad interests, which does not help with cliques. I'm like, yeah, I like film stuff, nerdy stuff, exercise stuff, parkour stuff, like the basic parkour practice,
right.
and I like the AEW.
Yeah.
Like it's, I don't know, I never fully got along with any clique in high school. The nerdy clique was the closest one.
Right. I agree. And I had a white white woman in this case now. It wasn't racial. But I will say, because she's a white girl who kind of like dates black men from like the hood or whatever you want to call it. And she at one time she blocked me. Actually, she's blocked me now, but at one point she said that because she has kids, and she said her kids said that because I talk the way I talk, like the way I'm talking now, like they thought I was gay.
Yeah, and that I mean, I have a lot to say to that, but at the same time, like, okay, I want to maintain a little bit of the topic at hand or whatever, but I do have a lot to say about that.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to just throw that out there. I didn't mean
Oh
that.
yeah, no, because okay, well, no, screw it. Today's an episode where I say screw it. So like, I think a lot of stuff has just been. A lot of people desperately want to separate people into boxes.
Yeah.
And the straight man box is getting smaller and smaller by the day because of the fact that people are seeing more and more LGBTQ people do a variety of different things. And also, I get the impression that sometimes the LGBTQ people thing gets associated as if it's a white person thing, which that's very much not the case, but like,
Yeah.
And so I feel like these sorts of these sorts of things have just made it harder and harder for straight men to be themselves without being accused of being without being considered sus, because some people use sus in that way.
Well, I mean, this person just said it, and it was just like,
Well, yeah.
I guess her kids were being funny because I didn't because I think she is actually bisexual. Actually, that's what she told me.
Mm-mm.
And so I guess her kids just thought that because most black men they're around just talk, stereotypically like a black person, and they never been around someone like me. I guess they just thought I was gay. Like, yeah, I mean, it's just bad because it's like they're trying to say, oh, he doesn't talk like the way like yo, what up, my, like he doesn't talk like that. He talks like this. He listens to music that's, he listens to the Cranberries or someone like that. Oh, he must be a weirdo because he doesn't conform to what I think a black person should be. Even like the most like non-racist stereotypes of
Yeah.
I think part of that is also a Florida thing too, to be honest. As someone also from Florida, I think it's particularly stratified there, specifically with people of color, where it's like, okay, if you are going to be expected, you're going to perform in a very narrow, gender specific, big man, strong man, heavy into sports kind of way, and people are not at all prepared for anyone who diverges from that very strict construct. I also think that one of the things that can happen, even if it's not like a fully social clique, if people are really used to working together, they can develop like an unspoken shorthand for how they work with each other and when they're ready for help or when they're not. And so somebody thinks, well, when I move this red book over here to this part of the table, that's an obvious indicator that like I want somebody to bring the green book so then we can do this next set of things. Or when I move it over there, then obviously it means that I want this light set up over there or something. But if you don't verbalize that to somebody who's new, they're not gonna by osmosis automatically understand the unspoken nonverbal cues that maybe y'all have developed between yourself over months or years or whatever of working together.
Right.
Nobody is going to pick up on that automatically, and especially if you're not neurotypical, you're not necessarily going to process those directly as indicators unless they're like listed on a list of X means Y, and when both are present, I need Z.
Yeah, well, I kind of liken my brain to like a space probe in space, like where JPL has to like write out specific codes in order to send the transmission to the probe, and you can't just assume, like it's gonna just follow just something random. You have to actually spell it out for it. At least that's how I use it. At least that's the analogy I use. Now, yeah, I mean, I can like make like extrapolated guesses on what people would want. I'm not that like handicapped by it, but you can't tell me, oh, here's a production assistant job or something like that, and just sit over there, like, no, it's like, what do you want me to do? Because like, yeah, I mean, if you want me just to come just sit, I can come and sit, but that's not what I came to do. I came to work. So
Yeah, and yeah, it's almost like there's an it's like, I don't know. I'm not good with job stuff. There's a particular attitude, though. I feel like that you've touched on, Isaiah, in general, with the unspoken culture of working, even or even like pretending to work, because
Yeah.
I'm not even sure that you're expected to always do something important, but it's important that you do something
Right.
even if it's not important. I almost feel like that's an aspect of some work cultures in America that I mean as someone who has to double check if rules are given to me are correct, and I like to make sure I'm precise and I'm doing the thing correctly. And
Right.
I'm just realizing that my hand kind of makes my leg appear and disappear. But yes, um I feel like there are aspects of gut instinct almost that are tied to work where you're just supposed to guess to some degree and hope you're right,
Yeah.
which sounds terrible. Like every aspect of it. It's just
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes you just have to be ready to guess wrong, but that is something that neurodivergent people, speaking from just my experience, tend not to do well with. It's like, if you want me to do something, tell me what you want me to do. Like, be
Yeah.
specific, or give me a list of, like, 5 or 10 options, so I know how to sequence, or I know kind of what my realm is. But especially when you grow up being told you're annoying, or you're underfoot, or you're in the way, then reflexively you're not going to want to jump up and just assume, oh well, maybe Bob has something for me to do. Let me go and see if Bob has something for me to do, because he looks like he's busy and I don't have anything to do right now.
Yeah. Well, I think, see, what's interesting with me is, even though these were really poor experiences, I didn't want to like give up on filmmaking, and I just decided I'll just go it alone. I'll just write my own stuff. I'll just think of this. I'll just do my own thing. It's gonna take a while, but I just decided that's probably the better alternative. So
I mean, yes and no. I mean, it depends on how well you are at work-life balance. Because taking care of yourself and not like overstressing yourself or like adding or getting overwhelmed by the amount of work, and maybe I'm just speaking from my own personal experience with that in terms of trying to build up more help with the fluid voice, which I essentially took on a lot of the work myself with. Sorry, I'm just like, wait, did I just kind of do the same thing? No, I just think help is helpful if you can find someone who to work together with. But yeah, I get it that to some degree sometimes you have to do a lot of it yourself. It's just at some point it can get really what's the right word? It can get really disheartening, or at least it did for me in terms of like if I feel like I'm not getting anywhere.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just, maybe for a lot of us on the spectrum, maybe it's just we just can't do some of the things we want. But that's not really our fault. We definitely
Yeah.
get blamed for it. We get blamed to hell and back because we don't conform. But it's just if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. I don't think we should give up. But
Oh yeah, no. Giving up giving up completely. Giving up is worse. I just mean if you can find a place to slowly, if you can find ways of slowly making connections and eventually find people who are also passionate in similar things to team up with or whatever, if you're talking about a bigger project. Depends on the size of the project. It depends on how much of the day you expect on the project. It depends on what your goals are, I guess. I don't know. I might just be thinking aloud from
well,
wanting to build up the fluid voice as well.
A lot of it is a lot of it's also like it's like hobby. It's like something I do for fun. So some of this film stuff I do is like it's a hobby of mine. So it's so like a lot of it's that too. So like I like for example I like to write. So I've spent years writing screenplays. What like not only screenplays but like because I have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I write scripts for my YouTube channel, so I like I don't get paid to do it. I write my own scripts. I word it the way I do, so I like to write. So it's good that I have that like arts and crafts are like a hobby that I can use to do self-care, like you said, self-care. So that's good.
Yeah, and so long as no, sorry. So long as you have an idea, or so long as you can make sure to balance that well and keep doing what you care about, and you have a way to do that, and you have a way to maintain that, that's good. That's something I struggle with. I personally struggle with that more, but I probably have some of the elements of societal conditioning with regards to putting value on what I get done,
Right.
which is not healthy, which is not, it's not helpful to do that, because that can get really it is simultaneously on one level motivating and another level incredibly not a good thing to worry about, because ultimately with anything, everyone starts out bad.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is. Everyone starts out bad. And you don't have to be the best.
No, you don't.
And that is stuff I struggle with to some degree. More so the latter part of I want, like, there internally I'm just like, I want to be really great at something, and I am just kind of okay at a lot of different things. And I know, just to bring up A little bit of chat, 'cause I saw Beast Nation mention, yes, the job stuff, busy work, mindset of constant productivity. Folks think I'm stupid for asking questions, but I just hate double work. Yeah, no one should have to. The work situation's awful, I think, for that.
Right.
Yeah, don't expect me to extrapolate needs. My needs include the need to be point blank told what to do, then maybe let me watch it done, then leave me alone because I'll get it done. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's definitely more the case.
But
Yeah,
you very much have to like have parameters first.
yeah,
The idea of, oh, just wait till somebody needs something, and it's like, okay, but if you can't communicate basic requirements beforehand, and then I don't know what I'm looking for, then like where does it is really hard to kind of just figure it out when you feel like you're on your own and you feel like you don't have direction, and then it's like, well, I'm waiting for something to do but nobody's giving me directions. Like figuring out how to balance that is really stressful.
Yeah.
yeah. Indigenous Heretic, you mentioned having a hard time interacting with chat while paying attention to the stream unless chat is moving along with the stream too. Yeah, I think that's something I get the impression watching creators that's something like a lot of people struggle with regards to paying attention to stream and chat. Well, no, wait, I'm thinking of it from a creator point of view. I guess sometimes in general, just even reading chat and watching a stream, it's hard to interact with chat. But yeah, no, it's I mean, obviously a lot of stuff can boil down to neurotypical people oftentimes are seen as the default, and therefore the way of thinking that is more common among neurotypical people is much like a lot of defaults is follows similar rules or whatnot, much like societies, white people being the default attitude, or what's
Well,
another
white,
what
cishet, non-disabled,
yeah,
very gender conforming people. They're
yeah,
the normal ones. The rest of us are just big question marks.
weirdos unite.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think, well, I mean, and some of this is unfortunately perpetuated regardless of whether or not you are or aren't a part of a marginalized community. Everyone has a chance of promoting the more toxic elements tied on to masculinity.
Right. Well, living in Florida where I live now, I'm actually gonna post an article that from the Tallahassee Democrat, because I live in Tallahassee, about how like traumatic this last session was in our state towards like transgender people and just people who aren't white, capitalists and Christian and all that other shit. So
No, I apologize to both. I feel sorry for both of you having to be in parts of Florida. I'm over here in Minnesota being like, the weather's actually been really nice today. I mean, yeah, the Minneapolis Police Department is still a dumpster fire that needs to be preferably tossed out and redone, preferably with less policing and more people who actually help people, who are actually trained to help people.
Yeah. On top of everything, the Florida situation is not helped by our famous or infamous governor, depending on who you ask. It's the trickle down effect from the last two has not been good. For most of us living in Florida who are not cishet white non-disabled Republican men. So it's a trip or a thrill ride or something. And the guy in the governor's mansion even decided that he was gonna pick a fight with Disney, which
Okay, but that's funny.
Yeah, that is.
it's kind of funny, but it's like, dude, they've been running practically like a county and a half themselves for 50 years. So you want to start a playground fight, and you're talking about cost savings, but then basically you want to take a bunch of stuff over. Whoops.
Yeah, but like he can't win. Like I get that Disney is also evil in different ways as an evil corporate overlord, but like Ron is like Ron. Okay, in Ron DeSantis is essentially that what's his name in episode 7 of Star Wars, and then he became more and more comedically awful at his job. That one Empire guy who was like trying to run shit, but he like very much was not in charge.
I think I know who you're talking about. That's
Ron DeSantis, and Disney is the Emperor. Like, what? You really think you could win this? What?
I'm trying to figure out what like I think I know what you're talking about. Like who you're talking about. Is it the white? Is it the guy in Force Awakens who does that Hitler speech and then you know?
Yes,
okay.
Him. That's Ron DeSantis, and Disney is the Emperor, and he thinks he can run stuff and take on the Emperor, and it's like, no, you have stepped several layers beyond what you think you can do.
Yeah, by the way, the name is General Hux.
Oh, yes.
General Hux.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're both evil, but like,
Yeah.
really.
Disney has plenty of issues, but if you're running as a business-focused candidate, theoretically, Disney is the largest employer, the largest single employer in the state by far. And then on top of that, I just lost my train of thought. That's not helpful. I'm crap. So they're the largest employer in the state, and a lot of the tourism industry is basically the largest industry in Florida, even if it doesn't directly get run by Disney. Most of the tourist industry infrastructure in Florida at some point intersects with Disney property, Disney infrastructure. It's the largest industry by significantly several amounts, especially since the citrus crop is kind of in trouble. So, like, you can't depend on ag. They're the largest single employer in the largest industry by far, and you want to pick a playground fight with somebody like 10 times your size with a whole bunch of friends. Okay.
Well, no one ever said fascists were smart. They just want power.
Yeah.
That's-
Which also fits with Hux.
Well, I think at the end, Hux just kind of just didn't care anymore. He just was like, yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Because like, didn't like Kylo Ren in like episode 6 kind of like, I don't know, like they had a beef and then Hux kind of just got tired of the whole thing. He's just like, I don't give a shit if you guys win. I just want Ren to lose or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, there was that. And then, yeah, no, okay.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. I usually think about. I was thinking of early General Hux.
Well, yeah. I mean, okay, yeah, fair enough.
B-Station brings up a good point to you, Isaiah. The fascists are the ones who think fascists are smarter.
Right.
Solid point, Beastie.
That, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, this leads to, once again, to some of the toxic elements that have been pinned onto the concept of masculinity as if they have anything to do with them, which is the desire to be more powerful and have more control or whatever. And the more power and control you have, the more manly you are, type thing. Yeah. Which I'm sure Ron DeSantis is stuck in that sort of mentality.
Yeah, well, when you're the JAG officer at Gitmo, that's, yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
That's...
Yeah. God, the Republican, so much of the Republican Party nowadays is just like, hey, we're gonna be cartoon villains.
But that's what makes it funny. Like, he wants to be a cartoon villain, but he wants to, like, end the maker of the cartoons. Which is kind of a problem.
Yeah, but it's essentially a Roadrunner scenario, and Disney is the Roadrunner painting the walls or whatever, and Ron DeSantis is just running right into them.
The Roadrunner got himself out of trouble way better than Ron DeSantis has so far, and apparently, last I heard, when he went to England recently, his presence was mostly deemed an embarrassment. He did not speak well to people, and he did not make a favorable impression, and he looked at his shoes most of the time.
Yeah, he has very awful, like, social presence. He's terrible.
I mean, to be fair, he might also be some level of neurodivergent himself, although I'm sure he would absolutely never admit it if that's the case. But it's just like, dude, your level of superiority in your own position is not reflected by your performance in effectively anything, sir.
Yeah, he doesn't, because, like, like there's definitely times where like I've studied how he acts towards people, and like I don't know why people are afraid of him, because like I'm not afraid of the dude. Like if it, like there was a time where he made fun of some kids with like masks on, like COVID masks on, and I was like, I wish you would talk to me like that, because yeah, you no, I would embarrass you on that stage. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
As a guy who was photographed at major events more than once with his mask or his N95 on upside down, sir, sir, this is a public event at a stage that you were supposed to be like the head of. Get yourselves together, sir.
Well, I think that's kind of the case with a lot of these people. This they're not actually scary in person. They just are good at emotional manipulation and
Yep.
Yeah,
various. I think there's a genuine crossover with abuse and some people who end up in similar types of powerful positions, because at some point abuse and fascism and cults have a lot of crossover. I get the impression.
right.
Power and control.
Well, as someone who's been abused most of their life emotionally, particularly by my dad, I'm not. That doesn't really hurt me as much as you would think it would. Because I've seen a lot of things, and it's like I'm just like I've been to prison before. I've been to juvenile hall. I've been homeless. Like I've seen a lot of shit in my life, and his emotional manipulation doesn't affect me. And I say that too, like around like with most people too. It's just like with the people who like didn't want me around with the film shed. It's like, okay, well, this didn't work out. I was moping for a while, and then I move on. And
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, my situation was more a for a friend situation, and I didn't see a lot of options for friendship. So that definitely got to me more, but not in definitely in much more of a easier way to end up in a fight mode than a flight mode
right.
with that stuff. It's like, yeah, no, that I genuinely you have taught me. Congratulations, person who emotionally abused me for years. You have taught me how to hate people, specifically you. But like, yeah, it is hard to. At some point, emotional abuse is hard to find threatening, but like at the very least, it still affects me. And to be fair, it depends on if you have enough of a social group. It gets harder and harder to be abuse if you have the emotional support, which is its own journey and trying to figure out.
Okay, so to try and regroup in maybe a different direction a little bit that's sort of related
Yes.
to Isiah, are there like a handful of things that you can think of that you would try and communicate the next time you're in a group setting trying to build relationships with potential, either romantic or not, to be sustainable with another group of people, maybe that already kind of know each other to some degree? Is there like a short list of things that you would want to do, or you would want to kind of say in the beginning if you were invited into another sort of collaborative situation?
Well, some people, well, possibly, but the question is, do I need to like advertise that I have autism whenever I'm in a group? Do they really need to know that all the time? Because
That's part of the question. But if you're, whether you've decided to disclose initially or not,
yeah,
you're in a situation where you notice that things are starting to go sideways. Maybe one of the things involves specific disclosure for you, maybe it doesn't. But are there other things that you would, knowing what you know now,
okay.
to use going forward to try and keep things from ending negatively?
I would say I would need to take the the initiative to speak up and actually say something is wrong or something is going wrong, to then kind of like pause and assess before moving forward.
Okay. That's really good. Are there any other things too?
Well, I would need to tell them that they like, so I guess let's say if we're doing film, like another film thing, and there's like the same issue, I would say well, you have to also be assertive too. You have to actually get up and say, sometimes firmly, what you need, and it's up to them to give it to you or not give it to you. If they don't want to give it to you, then that's on them, and then you have to then excuse yourself from the situation gracefully and peacefully, I might add.
Yeah.
But if they're willing to work with you, then let's work together and work this out. But if they're not willing to meet you at your demands, or they want you or they want you to like assimilate, conform to their demands specifically, then it's not going to work.
Right. But as an example, for things like, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't know if I answered the question.
You answered it for the most part. I'm just kind of going to add that in order to say to somebody, look, I'm really new to this kind of process. In order for me to be most effective, I would really like a list of the top 5 or 10 things you would like me to do or check to see if they've been done every day. Like, you could do that and not necessarily disclose neurodivergence.
Sure. Okay, so like make like an itinerary. Is that what you're asking?
Correct. Like, what other things would you add to advocate for yourself better going forward?
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. I will caution you and say that I'm not one of those autistic people that needs an itinerary all the time. Like, there are times where I can just kind of just read the room and kind of like know what I need to do. But the problem, see, with me is I'm trying to make I don't know what the word is. Like, I'm trying to make I'm trying to make myself, dependable and productive in case like I get like job prospects in the future. So it's like I always walk into a room with my best foot forward, or whatever it's called, and trying to, I guess, please other people, which that can sometimes be an unfortunate trait with people on the spectrum. They try really hard to please people who in general don't really care much about them. So I think that for me is the problem, trying to be a people pleaser. But the problem is, if you're not a people pleaser, you don't get the job. But so.
Well, I mean well, I was gonna say that is the complicated thing with neurotypical people, and jobs is finding that balance, because I think to some degree it depends on the person running it too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you ask a good question, people are like, I never thought of that. Here's like the information you wanted. And then sometimes you ask a question and people are like, yeah, just do, the general things for the job or whatever. Like you said with the previous job of just find work, and it to some degree, it depends on the employer. There are also shit managers. They're definitely, they're very bad managers out there too. So like it there I'm not sure there's always a clear 100% expected way to do things, which is also frustrating because then you have to try to figure out what things in which different type of personality for the job or whatever, and if it's worth it. And that,
well, you're also just never going to like get that perfect reaction. You're just never going to get that. So the thing I gotta like tell people on the spectrum, particularly if you're working with people who are in film or you're working with people that are out of your comfort zone, is like you're gonna fail most of the time. So just go in there with that, and once you're comfortable accepting that, once you're comfortable accepting that that you didn't make a splash, use that to then develop your own style of filming. I always say, technically you're not going to fit in well with people. You're just not going to do it. So instead of you focusing so much on trying to fit in well, maybe you should just make your own, march to the beat of your own drum. And I think Indigenous Heretic brought this up one time a couple weeks ago when we were talking about when this crisis was happening with me, and he said, why don't more people who are on the spectrum develop their own film stuff? And I think they should. It's just difficult because you got to get all that stuff together. So I mean, that's my opinion on it. Expect failure, because it's like two systems trying to interact, and it's just not going to work. It's gonna, it may work in some instances, it may work in most instances, but it's not going to work in every instance. Excuse me.
well, yes, although I obviously don't want to, because I don't know. I don't necessarily know all the divergent or neurodivergent or neurotypical qualities of
Right.
of anyone I'm friends with, but I definitely have lasting friends with people who are not autistic, because I think if you manage to get, if I think given enough time and actual effort and people understanding each other, I think it's possible for people to understand, or people to be accepted to some degree, even if not fully understood and all that stuff. But I think the most difficult part is getting to that point, because if like a month in, people don't want to deal with you because you're different, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's definitely something you're gonna have to deal with. But it's going to be a struggle. It's not going to be easy. But the thing about it is, look, like if you become, I would famous, or if you actually become someone special in your field and you win acclaim, you can just kind of just rub it in their face and be like, okay, well, this is how I made it, and you missed out on an opportunity because you were a single-minded prick. So
I mean, yes, but that requires self-reflection. Not everyone's good at that.
well, yeah. I mean, they don't have to realize they were a prick. I'm just saying, gloat and toot your own horn, and if they don't toot back, then that's on them. Who cares? You got to focus on your life and moving forward. They don't worry about what they're doing.
Yes. Definitely paying attention to your own needs is really important, and something that's I think due to how weird society is, how geared towards neurotypical people society is. I think it's a lot easier for neurodivergent people to need more self-care on average, which is fine. But definitely dissuaded by society, some of which has the grind mentality. Gotta work that grind, work real hard, and
Yeah, I don't do the grind thing.
Yeah, I've also really struggled with. I'm around a lot of people who are also neurodivergent, but they're not neurodivergent in the same way that I am. So being in situations where somebody's like, one of the things for me is it's much easier for me to figure out how and where to do something if you tell me what you're looking for first. Because if it's an area that I've been to, I probably can locate it relatively easily if I know what it is. If it's like under or behind something, that may be different. But some of the people that I deal with, their way of processing is generally into like a whole 30 to 60-second spiel about underneath the, next to the, behind the green label with the thing, and it probably might be at eye level, but, and all this other information before they can tell me what it is they actually need or why they actually need it. And I'm just like, I could have already looked for it and been back by now. Also, P.S., by the way, your eye level and my eye level are like 18 inches different.
Yeah.
So the fact that I have to compensate for all this extra information that to me is irrelevant and actually stressful, because trying to like remember what I actually need to remember while trying not to get too focused on all this other information that I don't need or want to hold in my brain while I'm trying to look for something is really, really like a major energy drain for me. And I've tried to explain it to people, and most of them just don't get it. I'm like, look, if you could just tell me what you need first, and then if I need further details, I will gladly come back. And I don't care if it takes several trips for me to do it. But me having to sit and listen to you for literally a solid minute to 2 minutes to even more, explaining where you think this thing was the last time you saw it, is super stressful for me. And if I didn't have to hear that, my brain would work better.
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
So finding not only neurodivergent people, but neurodivergent people that you can compromise and work well with is its own set of difficulties too.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks.
And that does not help employment numbers. If you're the wrong neurodivergent for employment, pleasing employment people.
Correct. Neither do high levels of suck.
B Station has, yep, without being a people pleaser at some point, is you don't get the job or quote unquote relationship, still struggle to navigate being a good person versus being a people pleaser. I mean, I think that's just that's a struggle for like a lot, especially with a capitalistic society. It's but yeah, definitely more so if you're also neurodivergent.
So yeah, and I mean, I guess unfortunately, just that's just kind of the way it is sometimes.
Well, I mean, it's one of several things that just need to change about society, because right now there's like a million ways in which if you're different, if you're different from the weird ideal version of what it means to be human that people have made up in their brains, then to some degree you haven't made it into the upper echelons of that hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
That unnecessary hierarchy, which is probably a net bad thing. Well, not probably, definitely is a net bad thing. Because like people should be cared about for existing. Caring about human life should be a default or whatnot.
Well,
That's hard.
well,
That sounds like a
under
waste of resources, Ozma. I don't know if people should really do that. Sarcasm, all the sarcasm. Of course.
well, under capitalism, caring for human beings, people kind of like excuse that and they just don't do it. So
Yeah. Capitalism.
I mean, I would capitalism is an excuse to be a dick to people.
Well, not just that. It's like people just sort of have weird excuses, like under the assumption that everything needs to be capitalistic, and it's like, people have to be unemployed. In under capitalism, people
Right.
have to be unemployed. You realize you're saying those people have to be doomed for your system to work. That isn't like a red flag that there's a problem with your system. Like that's
Well, what they would say is that person just wasn't savvy or smart enough to work the system. Oh, I've actually had a quote unquote autism coach that I knew really well tell me that. They were like, "Well, you weren't savvy enough to play the system," or which kind of sounds awkward because playing the system sounds like illegal. But anyway, that's what they'll say. They're just like, oh, you just didn't do the right thing, and you didn't let you let the system fuck you instead of you fuck the system. So I guess you just suck. Yeah.
But I mean that's one way to describe it. The other way I've heard is that it's unfortunate, but it's the only way to have an economic system that it's the only system that could possibly work economically. Is sort of the attitude. It's a sad thing, but I'm not going to do anything about it because capitalism is clearly the only way we can do things. Why try to do something better, or factor in the things that capitalism absolutely cannot work for? There are things that it's impossible for capitalism to work. in the, like, if you read, okay, so I have read some of Adam Smith or whatever, and like the general principles of the ideas of capitalism cannot work in other, you can't have competing employees unless they have a guaranteed home, food, guaranteed shelter, food, medical, dental care. That's dental care also factors into medical care. That's it's only separated because society, because there are dental things that can be problematic for your ability to live. It's just we decided to separate it and mark dental care as something that's always cosmetic when it's not. Anyways, but yeah, food, shelter, food, water, shelter, medical and dental care. If people have that guaranteed, that's a lot easier for workers to, like, unionization right now in the system we have is very scary and stressful. If people didn't have to worry about survival, like, yeah, you could technically temporarily have capitalism, which eventually would bleed into co-ops or whatever, because there's no reason to have a hierarchy with that shit. And at some point, more and more people would realize that. I'm more of the mentality of like mutualism being a step towards the end of capitalism or whatever.
Well, in some degree, a lot of artists that I work with who are on the spectrum, and a lot of artists in general, like who like have Etsy shops and all that, they tend to like already kind of are already there almost to socialism, because they don't employ people to make their stuff. They make their own stuff with their own money and their own time. So in some ways, artists like me are who have like artists like me who make our own work. I do all the work when it comes to the stuff I make. We kind of are already somewhat near socialism just with that. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I mean, to some degree. I mean, obviously there's no ethical consumption about capitalism, under capitalism, and some element of anything you do is probably made in some sort of capitalistic nightmare thing. It's unfortunate, but definitely co-ops and artistic stuff is definitely those are definitely not capitalistic structures. It's the only capitalistic parts are stuff relating to survival and the tool element. It's capitalism is very pervasive,
yeah,
still, which sucks. But that's why, like, there needs to be more mutual aid and more cooperatives and stuff like that, more ability to unionize against landlords and any sort of employee.
Yeah.
Housing is difficult too.
Housing is currently mostly awful for most people.
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, most people on the spectrum either live with their parents or they rent apartments, so, which isn't bad. It's just they don't have houses.
Well, and both the rental market and the housing market right now, if you're trying to get into anywhere where you're not currently, is just awful across the board.
Yeah, I have friends who are more in the middle class area or whatever who tried to get a house a couple of years ago or so, and it was just like impossible because places were bought up. Like, like that. Like a lot of people, even if they could afford house like mortgage, do not have a way to get a house.
Yeah.
Really.
Would you guys say we're like capitalism is collapsing, or is it what where would you guys say capitalism is at the moment? Capitalism.
Oh, it's definitely what I think capitalism is, if it continues going the way it has been going, is kind of doing some of the same problems as what caused the Great Depression. The thing is, there's always the possibility of someone eventually band-aiding it again, and people, and the question is, if depending on how much, because there is more of a spread of information nowadays,
Right. Would you
so more people are aware of socialism, and less people hate have the same conditioning to hate socialism.
would you say that capitalism could face like the crisis that communism faced in the late 80s, of like, because like in some ways, if you look at it, we're kind of like headed in some ways towards that, because it's like they're because like what I see capitalism now, particularly in America, but across the world too, is there is a rise of fascism, a rise of right-wing fascism,
Yeah.
which oftentimes correlates to capitalism in decline, because
Yeah.
the really wealthy, oftentimes are the ones that run the system. So they impose laws that basically, you know, as everyone else is attempting to get more of a seat at the table, the people at the very top are trying to impose laws, whether it's you can't do this or you can't do that, all the way to transgender people are bad. And it's like, I'm wondering, is that basically a sign of capitalism's end? Because basically what's happening is, if you look at it like, basically people are up, like the elites are up here and everyone else is trying to get to the up that ladder, and like they're making laws to kind of kick people off the ladder, but more people are keep climbing. So I'm wondering if capitalism is becoming more like communism of the late 80s. Although the only difference there is most of those governments back then were okay with the end of communism, because communism was an oppressive form, was more of a state oppressive form, as opposed to like,
well, a lot of the countries that called themselves communist countries were authoritarian ruled dictatorships that applied little bits of communism, but very little.
right. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, it was Sino communism in name only. That's what it was.
Yes.
So
which is definitely the case with China still.
But you know, well, capitalism is doing that too. It's just, you know, it's just fascism. That's basically what it is.
Well, fascism is the end game of capitalism. It's always been the end game of capitalism.
Okay, because I'm also hearing that we're also described as an oligarchy too. I'm also hearing that too.
Oh yeah, no. Right now we are an oligarchy, but if nothing, without drastic changes due to how much capitalism is promoted in culturally, if you have enough people in shitty situations, and you have people come up and say that they're going to make things better or whatever,
right?
They're more likely to be people who go along with that. I mean, that's part of the reason why fascists like Trump were able to get into office.
Yeah.
And I realize there's a lot of pushback against Trump, but unless there needs to be enough of a cultural change to prevent fascism from taking over, and there needs to be there just needs to be a lot more drastic change, and it's going to be difficult. And there's a lot. I mean, the other thing is because a lot of people compare it to Germany pre World War II or whatever, but the thing is that's a very different circumstance. There's a lot more safeguards in America to prevent to fight against fascism, and there's a lot more push back against fascism because of our history. Like,
Yeah. Well,
George Washington was famous for deciding not to be authoritarian, in at least in the mythos. So like there's a lot more cultural ties to not having a dictatorial government in America. So it would be it would take a lot more work for a fascist ruler, but things keep continuing to get worse on an economic level with regards to people's survival. Desperate people is a good way to end up in a fascist dictatorship. I'm not a believer in sort of, if things get bad enough there'll be like a socialist revolution, because that has historically not been the case. When things get bad enough, because we haven't gone headfirst into child labor again. We're still dipping our toes into child labor, which we are dipping our toes into.
Well, I don't know if I don't know. Well, I kind of agree with you about maybe we won't have a socialist revolution, but I kind of look at, with all the mass shootings we have and all the mental illness and all the toxicity in our politics, we are getting towards something.
Well, yeah, but I mean, mental illness doesn't really. I mean, mental illness is just used as a stigma, or whatever. A lot of that just the thing that relates to mental illness the most is the fact that it's a lot. If you're neurodivergent in various ways, it's a lot easier to see how fucked society is, which can lead you down any number of paths depending on who you're around. I guess it's the thing is, there's a large number of people who are culturally further left, even if they're not economically further left, which is less helpful. But like socially, a lot of people are left of the people in charge, and right now the Republican Party is kind of killing themselves, which is an opportunity for real change, because you might be able to get like an actual left of the Democrats Party that cares about helping, like actually economically helping people, like an economic left of the Democratic Party. There's opportunity for another party to fill the gap, at least if the Republican Party continues to kill themselves. So there is some hope of at least pushing for cultural change.
Mm-hmm.
And cultural change forces cultural change, riots and protests and unionization all tends to force people's hands.
Right.
um it's but yeah, if the Republican because the Republican Party isn't moving along left with society at all and has stuck their heels in the ground, they're very much kind of killing them. They're like cheating at a card game, and they have been cheating for years, and they're at this point they're starting to do so bad at cheating they're not winning all the time when they cheat.
Well, they're just being openly just fascist, and people are just saying. I mean, we're at a point where we're at like where Nazi Germany was in 1934 with burning books and stuff. I mean, well, banning books. You know.
Yeah, we're not, like I said, there is more pushback. The thing is, a lot more people in America, because like, okay, so Germany had just gotten over like they had a king like 30 years before the Nazi Party. Like they're used to authoritarian rule.
Yeah, Kaiser.
Like America very much is like, no, we fought against a king. There's a lot more Americans who have that mentality, which is why at this point people are being voted against in the Republican Party, which is that's how far right the Republican Party has gone, that Republicans are voting against the Republican Party. They're not voting for the Democratic Party, they're voting against the Republican Party, which is something needs to change, and I don't think the Republican Party has enough influence to make the change that they think they can. And Ron DeSantis is taking on Disney, and Disney is doing the smart corporate move and reading the social cues, and like is doing the classic corporate pretendy shit.
Right.
But like that means they can't support. So many companies are just like, no, we will lose money if we support the Republican Party, so let's just support them less. And a lot of them still support the Republican Party, but like, let's support them less. And
not publicly.
Yeah, and they're just like, the Republican Party is making it very hard for themselves to win. And as bad as the Democratic Party is, which it is, it is possible to force the Democratic Party's hand with enough social pressure. The Republican Party is ignoring society and the world and just doing their own thing.
Right.
And yeah, there is a lot more that needs to be done to get change, but like I said, I think it is possible to get rural voters, and I think it's possible to take over where the Republican Party is with a economically further left party by actually fighting for people, because I think a lot of people don't see themselves as being fought for.
Yeah. Alienation definitely a major issue.
I'm not sure about the part about the Republican Party not winning instantly. I guess I keep seeing the school board stuff and all the laws being passed and being reelected. Yeah, no, it's there are people who are reelected. They're fighting hard for school board stuff, and they're succeeding with some of that. That is true. but at the same time, they weren't able to win the Senate at all when that was supposed to be like an easy win for them. And they have committed to things that are less popular, because it's a very small, they're representing a smaller and smaller portion of America, which is good short term, not good long term. And if they keep going down this path and all they do is plan after plan that fails and just hate on a group of people that most people don't care about hating on or whatever,
Right.
it just at some point, like I said, they're and I realize a lot of some people, the only reason Biden won was people voted against the Republican Party. They're still a threat. And I don't mean to say that they're still a threat. They are still a threat. They're kind of using Twitter or other social media clicks to decide what it is good for them to do or whatever, and their own weird echo chamber stuff. And it's not like they're not still a threat. Obviously, Ron DeSantis is still there. And there's still horrible things that they can do, but there is also, I don't know, I guess I'm just optimistic that there are some holes from them shooting themselves in the foot to some degree. I think it's sort of like what's the phrase Bo the Fifth Column says a lot. They've got this candidate is the only candidate that can win the primary, but it's impossible for them to win the election.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what tends to happen, because a lot more people hate the MAGA movement than like it. Like, I think it's a 20% difference between the number of people who, I think it's like, what, 24% of people like the MAGA movement, like 40-something% of people hate it. Like, there's a lot of people who will vote against anyone who supports the MAGA movement, which means they're helping the other side on some level, which is why the Democratic Party has kind of had some of that their strategy, but they're also trying to see how much they can do in the places where they have some amount of control, because they want to cater to the base that they think is better than that for them. The unfortunate part is the fake center. They keep being told by fascists that we're radical baddies and not fascists. Yeah, a little hope, but not much. But yeah, fascists trying to take over and not looking very good. Yeah, I mean, and that, like I said, there is no guaranteed win. Everyone should do what they can, and even though voting is the least action, the least impactful action, it is still important.
Harm reduction is important.
Yes.
In whatever form you can access it. And even if that is prioritizing your self-care and communicating your needs versus
My
you know.
survival is technically on some level action. No, I'm kidding. I do try to do what I'm in a semi-privileged position, so I can do what I can. I'm definitely trying to do my best to. I am trying to better reach out to organizations to or to get. I'm trying to put myself in positions with potential protests or providing information that's not as easily found. I have stuff on my mind for information I might have tomorrow that's useful to spread, that I might spread in the Fluid Voice. I don't want to give out more information than that.
Yeah.
I have thoughts in my mind. We are way over. So I'm just gonna get to wrapping up. I assume that's what you're about to say anyways, as well, context.
I was gonna to head in that direction. I thought about it earlier, but the role was too good. And there was chat interaction, so I was just gonna leave it there. One of the things I say a lot in different places is existence can be radical. And it often is. Even if you are not fully out, quote unquote, in the fullness of your identity everywhere you are, existing in a way that is most safe for you and most sustainable for you can be a very radical act anyway. So that's just where that is to me.
Okay, well, as long as you've said things, where can people find you, and is there anything you want to promote?
I'm here mostly. I'm on Discord occasionally. I can be summoned. If you see me other places and you ask something nicely, I will probably respond. I try to build community as much as I can. It looks like Isiah might have had to step away for a moment, but he is on Social Justice Alchemy regularly, and I'm really glad we could have this conversation.
I'm here. I'm just
Yay!
preparing dinner at the moment. I'm just trying to get dinner started.
Okay. Where can people find you? We're wrapping up, so.
I have a Facebook. It's Isiah Taylor. Look for the USS Enterprise D. I have an Instagram. If my phone will turn on. My Instagram username is Isiah Taylor 60. So I'm gonna go type that in. I have also 2 YouTube channels.
Yeah, I tried to get the YouTube channels in right. Let me go to. I think I got one of them wrong. Actually, yeah. I can update the links or whatever, or do my best to update the links, because one of the links I just checked wasn't working.
Yeah.
Because I linked to your Instagram, and for some reason the YouTube link didn't work. I'll add your Facebook as well.
Yeah, I'm not really good with this whole social media thing.
It took me a bit.
Yeah.
I was very much away from a lot of social media. I don't know what your other YouTube, but like
I'm putting it in the chat. Just hold on.
Okay.
Here's one. And then here's my other one I got.
Okay, that's the one I linked, but didn't. I know. I think I know what the problem was. I can fix the link so that anyone not, if you're live, the YouTube link won't work, but if you're not live, it should be.
Sometimes social media have so much redundancy that it's ridiculous.
Well, the YouTube, when they added the name and at thing, really messed with a lot of that. Anyways, if you have to go do your lunch stuff, you can leave when you want to or whatever. Okay. I'm wrapping up, and take care of yourself and have a good dinner.
You
I
too.
said lunch, but I meant dinner.
Links are in chat.
Yes, and they'll be on the description as soon as the episode's done.
You too.
Yeah, and you can find me on Twitch generally. I know my YouTube channel at the moment has been largely Twitch clips of me from Twitch, but not this week because I'm off this week. I'm off this week, and then but usually on Twitch you can find me streaming Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 4 to 8 Eastern. Yeah, 4 to 8 Eastern on Twitch Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. A variety of things. I mean, League of Legends, because I play that too much, and King's Quest or just chatting, and or reacting to stuff, and or playing chess is on Tuesdays, and Thursdays I usually draw. But like, yeah, no Twitch streaming this week, and like I said, YouTube, I've largely been doing Twitch clips, but I plan on getting some written content as soon as I feel comfortable in getting into a habit of making clips from Twitch streams, if that makes sense. And yeah, I don't have anyone to correct me. Wait, no, context wrench. You know the word order, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong, right?
It's just us. We can make it up, but I think I know it.
Okay. Your voice matters, your life matters, and you matter?
I think it's supposed to be life voice you, but sure. Well, whatever. It's all good things.
Well, one of those statements is correct.
Everybody's
And
important.
if Christy finds out, she can verbally give me shit for getting it wrong, if I got it wrong. Anyways, take care of everyone, and have hopefully have a wonderful start to your week.
Hold on.
Oh, okay. Sorry, stopped your video. Should I turn your video back on? Or can you turn it back on?
You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Oh, that's my problem. Sorry about that. I'm gonna...
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Alright, this is some of the music I listen to.
Velocity Girl.
See it?
The Sundays?
It's that.
What?
Melissa.
I need to be... Wait. I'm realizing I need to take notes. One moment. Velocity Girl, The Sundays. Let me type that up. I obsessively look through music. Okay, I got that written down.
Huh?
Yes, I am Melissa.
Melissa Etheridge.
Yeah, Melissa Etheridge.
Oh,
I'm sure everyone knows who this is.
Natalie Merchant. Oh yeah.
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 I haven't listened to Natalie Merchant much in a while.
Some of these are also like movie soundtracks too, from like movies.
That is classic 2000 and what?
Yeah, but like some movie soundtracks are just amazing.
So there's this. There's another. Here's Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion. Here's that one.
Oh wait, high school? What high school reunion?
You've never seen Romeo and Michelle? Oh my god. You have
Look,
to see that. It's
So there's
Okay.
that one. There's another Velocity Girl one here. Oops. Here's Blast from the Past. God, this lighting is put on.
I forgot to do my lighting. Anyways,
yeah.
I've got that down.
And here's I don't know if you know who Swing Out Sister is. So there's that.
I might have heard them before and just forgotten. It's hard to say. My and my sister said, anyways, take care, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. And now you have music to check out if you haven't checked out those before. Bye.
See you guys later. Nice talking to you. It's nice.